Hello friend, and welcome to Betta Days. If this is your first time joining me, consider sticking around, hit the subscribe button. I post once a week and my channel is already full of helpful content for betta fish keepers, both experienced, intermediate, and pro. If you are returning, then I'm so excited to see you here today. Today's topic is something that I think a lot of people would rather not discuss, especially those who have betta fish very dear to their heart. It is hard to think about them passing one day, and it is also especially hard to notice a visible aging as time goes by. My own betta fish, William, has started to show his age, which honestly is what sparked the idea for this video. I realized I had never really covered this topic, and as I have made a few changes to his tank within the last couple of weeks, I thought that it would be helpful to share with you a few of the changes I've made just in case you want to make life a little bit easier for your elderly betta. So jumping right in, one of the first changes I made was to just remove all the floating plants on his tank. I love floating plants in an aquarium. I'm sure you can tell, especially from Alexander's tank behind me, and I really love them, especially since they help to filter the water and they just look really aesthetically pleasing. I've always loved life. However, as William has aged, I started to notice that they were becoming kind of a hindrance to him, especially one night. It was probably around 9 p.m. I had the light off for a couple hours now, so he was kind of sleepy. As I watched him, I noticed that as he went up for air, he kept running into little clumps of the floating plants. And it seemed that he really needed to get some oxygen, so he kept going from clump to clump, trying to find a clear patch of surface so that he could go up for oxygen. So I realized that removing the plants was the best option. The second thing I recommend doing for an elderly betta is the addition of more resting spots. Now, I have noticed with most elderly bettas that they like to stay on the bottom of the tank, with the exception of going up for air, but every betta fish is different. So some I have noticed really start to like, especially as they age, they really start to like the leaf hammocks. They really start to like the tunnels as well, and the floating logs. So if you don't have any in your tank, or if you have maybe one, you could consider adding another one or two, just so that your betta definitely has enough places to rest without having to do a whole lot of extra swimming. The third thing that I believe is important to look at is the amount of clear space on the floor of the tank. If you have a lot of decor and a lot of plants that are really crowding the bottom, you may want to consider taking out a few of those, create a few smaller clearings. I've noticed that William tends to really like this little front area of clearing that I have in the front of my tank. Honestly, I think it's because it allows him to not only rest, but also see outside what's going on. He can see me as well. So he just really likes that. Lastly, if your tank is relatively bare and you don't have a lot of plants, consider adding a few. I know that bettas love to rest in the bushy plants or the plants with slightly larger, wider leaves. Some good plants to consider would be Java fern, the smaller, bushier variety. Just make sure that they stay lower and closer to the substrate so that your elderly betta doesn't keep running into them and actually has a designated place to lay down. And there is one thing I would like to add about feeding. If you are feeding your betta with tweezers or have been doing so in the past, you may notice that as they age, they have a harder time finding it. Maybe their aim isn't as good and they keep missing it. Bettas love to hunt in the rocks, in the gravel for food. It's just a natural instinct. They love to forage. So feel free to take advantage of that, especially as your betta ages and they are laying more on the substrate than they used to. They will actually hunt around the rocks for food. So when you feed them, feel free to just let the food sink and lie on the rocks. I do this when I feed William. I don't really worry about holding it for him anymore or letting anything float. I feed him frozen mysis shrimp, brine shrimp, and bloodworms. So all I do is I take them once I've thawed them and I drop some in the water and I allow them to sink to the bottom, and immediately he will be there. And honestly, he'll usually be there all day and he'll just be searching for them and he'll get them all. And any that he doesn't get, I imagine the snails eat them. So it works out really well. So friend, I hope that helped you. If you have any prior experience or if you have an elderly betta right now, feel free to share a little bit about your experience, about your betta. I always love to hear from you. If you haven't yet, you are going to want to join the Betta Fish Forum. It's a free private Facebook group for betta fish keepers in all areas of life. Right now, there are multiple posts a day. Whether you need help, there's an emergency, or you just want to share your passion with others, this is the perfect group for you. All right, friend, I hope you and your betta have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.